Today will be the first look of this here. This is the Hiby R4, and I personally am very excited to try this. Now, this is purchased by me. I have already tried it once in a shop before, but not too extensive there. And the reason why I got this is very simple. This is the most affordable full Android, music player device, costing at about 250 USD. It comes with Android 12, Snapdragon processor, internal memory of 32 gig. I mean, it does everything you need to do, and it has SD card expansion and what's not. Not only that, it does have real balanced output of about 500 milliwatt and a single-ended output. 500 milliwatt is a lot of power, more than enough to maybe power, say, headphones. So I'm really excited to try this. And what's more, it looks pretty good. The version I have is the black version. And let's unbox this and take a look. I mean, I only saw the silver one before, so let's not waste time. So this is how the player looks like in the box. This is the black version. I think it looks super nice, at least based on photos. And now I see in real life, I think I made the right choice. It looks less gamey looking than the other versions, and it is really good. I mean, look at this. It looks really, really nice. This is how the whole thing looks like. Before we dive deeper, let's look at what's inside the box. So obviously it's meant to be pulled out. There's a case. There's some instructions here, a spare screen protector, and a USB-C charging cable itself. To put them all together, this is what's inside the box. The screen protector, one. This is the player itself, and then the case and a cable itself. So let's take a look at the device, and I can tell you that the black version is just gorgeous. I mean, it's a bit of a fingerprint magnet for this, but we're gonna put a case on anyway. And then the buttons are really nice. And let's do the tearing. Now the screen protector has already been applied, so this is the second one in fact. So this is the original one that is in the box. This is already applied on it. So overall, I think the device looks really, really nice. Let's put in the case now. And this is pretty much how it will look like when you are using it day to day. Overall, I think it has a very nice look, very nice black look. And for $250, I really don't know what to complain about. At least physically, and the heft and everything, I think it looks fantastic. And even specification wise, considering a true balanced output here, single-ended, and then this is the USB, and then you can put SD card at the side. I really don't have anything to complain. I mean, this is pretty much as good as it gets for $250. So without wasting time, let's charge this up, boot it up, and have a first look. So now I'm booting up the device, of course with a power plug, and let's see how it looks like. This is the boot up sequence. Now, I'm setting up the Android and I don't want to bore you guys with it, but you can see that it's relatively smooth. Now this is a device once booted in. You can actually see that the skin here is pretty strong skin if you ask me. Now I'm not sure whether I can do anything about it, but you know what? Let's try to do all my various installation and get back to you guys on this device. As you can see, this is actually pretty much of a very fast device, so I'm excited to try it out. Just installing some songs, and then I'll do an initial test with some headphones to see whether it works or not. So I've set it all up, and this is Aino Akuruhi. I will try it out with this device here. This is the Radeon 6. Then I'll do a little bit of comparison with the Shenling M9 Plus. So initial comparison with the Shenling M9 Plus, that's because depths are really good these days. So what's the difference between this and a flagship, right? I would say as the Shenling has a little bit more, I would say, as body to the sound, it's a little bit more mid-weighted, while this is a little bit more dispersed throughout. And of course, the Shenling does have a slightly bigger soundstage, while the, I would say, as the Hiby R4 is pretty much more of a ESS sound, which is not too light and wide, but overall relatively balanced. In fact, I think the sound quality is so close that unless you are doing A/B comparison like me, you probably can't tell the difference. I mean, the slight difference in the mid weights on the shunting versus a more, I would say, as balanced, smooth sound throughout in the R4, and then you compare to the slightly bigger soundstage, which you probably can't tell if you are not A/Bing. It is really good. I mean, I usually don't want to talk too much about DAP sound quality because modern DAPs are really fantastic, and I can just tell you that the difference in the sound, at least through an IEM, is very minute. And there is, of course, still some differences, and whether you appreciate or not and wanting the last mile, that is for you to figure it out yourself. Okay, so that is the comparison with the Shuntling M9 Plus when it comes to IEM. So next thing I'm going to do is compare it using headphones. Now what I have here is the Caldera Close, and this is a planar magnetic close back. So I'm going to play the same sound again, and I'll compare this with the Shuntling M9 Plus to see how much difference can this make this sing. Now with the Caldera Close, I would say as there is a little bit more significant difference. Firstly, the soundstage is a little bit more significant between both of these. Secondly, it's also the controls and the weight in the mids. Now for the Caldera Close, it's a bit unique. I would say as the R4 sounds a little bit heavier than the M9 Plus when it comes to the mids itself. However, I find that the M9 Plus is just smoother and a little bit more relaxed and controlled. It's natural sounding, right? While the R4 feels like it is pushing it, and it's pushing it hard, there feels like there's some strain to the sound, but it's very, very minor. I mean, without A/Bing, I really cannot probably tell the difference up front. It just feels like the M9 Plus is like relaxed, you play the sound, it gives you that quality, while the R4 is trying to push the quality out. This may also be seen as a more forceful presentation, which is quite common with ESS style decks. But I think, no, this is probably not just the ESS deck, it's probably also due to the amplification and stuff. So for the Caldera Close, I would say you can run on the R4, you can enjoy yourself on the R4, perfectly fine. But for me at least, I think on the M9 Plus it sounds a little bit better, a bit smoother, a bit more relaxed, and just overall more enjoyable. While, the R4 just feels a little bit more forceful and a little bit more strained. Just a slight touch. And, well, considering that you can buy 10 R4s for the price of one M9 Plus, I think it's pretty okay. And you can play it really, really loud without any distortion, at least none that I can hear of, on the R4, which I think is a win. So for initial comparison, for at least sound quality directly out through the player itself, I would say as the R4, it feels a little bit more, I would say slightly smaller in soundstage. Overall, the mids wise, there is some differences, but it depends on, is it earphones or is it headphones? And I think that it has a more forceful sound, a little bit less relaxed compared to, say, the M9 Plus. But this may not so much be, the R4 not being able to provide the kind of power, but more of how the ESS and the amplifier actually portrays the sound. There's some difference there. But the question is the difference big? And I would say as no, the difference is not very big. And between the M9 Plus and the R4, I would say as beyond just the sound signature, everything from the usability part of it, the screen size, the responsiveness, I think also matters a lot. And the M9 Plus just feels a little bit more premium as a player. But if you are looking for an entry first player, I think the R4, at least when it comes to sound quality and usability, is very good. Now, I want to do one more session, which is on the amplification and really looking deep into the DAC performance, because this is a bit different. I mean, ESS 9018 DAC, 4 of them. I'm going to try how does a DAC sound quality compares to the AKM here. Is it a huge difference? Is it an ESS versus AKM thing? I'm here to find out today. So for lineout wise, the R4 doesn't have a dedicated lineout like some of the Hiby DAPs have. You have to set lineout inside the menu itself, which is somewhere inside audio settings. And then you will see a lineout function. You click lineout and then you just click lineout itself. Now you can of course control the gain, and I will set it to mid for the purpose of lineout today. And then we will try this out. And for the amp I'm connecting to, this is the Mesh Kobo using a PW audio cable. Now the reason I use this cable is very simple. It's not that because I want to use branded cables, but this has so far the best rejection in terms of RF, and it is fully connected over 5 pins, which the Mesh Kobo is really picky on. I will do one video on the differences between this cable and other cables one day, and look out for it, and I can show you that sometimes construction matters. Now the good thing of the R4 is that it's a fully grounded DAP, so it does have a ground pin inside the DAP itself, and when connected to an amp, it has no noise, which is pretty good. I mean, some amps are pretty touchy, like the Mesh Kobo. You have to connect into a DAP with a ground pin. If not, you have to use some sort of special adapter to connect the ground pin into a 3.5, like Sony DAPs. So both Sony and AK doesn't have a ground pin inside their DAPs itself, and using a balanced cable, it may not always work properly with amplifiers. So good thing the R4 actually implemented it properly. So when utilizing the Mesh Kobo, the R4 difference and the M9 Plus difference gets really small. It just feels like the differences of whatever I said just now just get really small. I mean, the sound stage is there, the slightly more, I would say, mid energy is there on the M9 Plus, but it's now very minor. So my conclusion for this test is that at least my initial first look, the R4 versus something of a very high end is about the amplification. The amplification on the R4 is just not as good as something of the M9 Plus. And as such, the R4 does carry, its sound signature through the amplifier, which isn't as good as what I feel from a flagship is like. But once you ignore the amplification and go straight to a high-end amplifier here, I mean, the difference is almost negligible. Now, before we end off this, let me double confirm whether, using headphones, the difference is large or not. So now with the amplifier, I would say as the Caldera close no longer exhibit that difference in soundstage, or the difference is really small. The only difference really you get is what I also said earlier with my Radon 6, is that there is just a touch more body in the Shuanling M9 Plus. And the difference is less about it. A touch more body in the M9 Plus makes it a little bit more focused there. Other than that, the R4 just feels a little bit more dispersed. But, there is almost no other difference. Soundstage-wise, sounds really close. I really cannot tell whether is it bigger or not on the M9 Plus versus the R4, both in line-out mode. And that's about it. This is my first look of the Hiby R4. In conclusion, this is a value-for-money device. If you are using IEMs, this versus, say, a very high-end player, the difference is relatively small. And you may be just happy if you didn't even hear before a high-end player before. But for headphones, I'll say as the differences are a little bit more significant, most likely due to amplification stage. And once you throw an amplifier in, the differences between the R4 and the M9 Plus kind of almost disappear. Maybe just a little bit more body in the midst, even if you are using headphones. So if you are intending to drive a device through an amplifier, considering buying the R4 rather than a flagship, I mean, it sounds really good. But if you are intending to drive the headphones or earphones directly out of the device, maybe try some of the higher end ones, and the amplification stage may be the one that really makes the difference. And that's about it. The R4 is a really good product and I love it, and I highly recommend if you are looking for your first music player as a audiophile. That's about it. I see you guys again. Bye bye.